if you have the mindset to think about legacy, you can start early.
Hello there, it's me, Steve Meller, and welcome in to Growth Ready, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. On this episode, we welcome in from the financial services industry a servant of people in that of Ed Dudley. And Ed believes that by connecting with people, resources, and opportunities, we all have the power to not only grow as individuals, but we become ready to serve others with the chance to be filled with gratitude in return. Okay, welcome back into the most recent installment of Growth Ready. I'm so excited to be speaking with Ed Dudley today. Before we get started, Ed, and we learn all about anything and everything that you're going to be bringing to this episode, I want to ask you what I ask everybody. What would it mean and what does it mean to you to be growth ready?
To be growth ready for me, it's all about mindset. Where is your mind? Are you vision oriented? Do you have adaptability and commitment? And then you start planning around that. So it's a mindset thing for me. And a lot of times we need to get individuals to reframe their thinking. Because if you can reframe your thought patterns, there's nothing that you can't do and be growth ready.
Mm. Love it. You already gave us a process, man. I appreciate that. We're not just giving me an insight. We're a beginning, a middle, and an end is what I just heard there in that immediate response. And we're definitely going to dive more into that. But I would love for you just now to share with our listeners what's a typical day, typical week in the life of Ed, and what is it that keeps you busy these days?
Oh, wow. There is no atypical day for me because I do a lot of different things, and I'm blessed to be a blessing. I always tell everyone it's not what I do for a living, but what I do for the living. So what I do to make money for me doesn't really matter. It's how am I serving someone else? So at my core, I've been in the financial services arena for going on a couple of decades. I'm a financial advisor right now, but where my passion and my heart and most of my work is, working and alongside my wife running a nonprofit called Shining Light in Darkness, where we work with victims and survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence. So a lot of my time is spent there, talking to individuals, talking to funders, and I'm excited because we just on Monday, the 16th of December, opened up emergency housing in our area for domestic violence survivors. What we've been able to do is almost double the capacity that my area has for survivors. So that's what I spend a lot of my time doing these days, and do nonprofit work, sit on some nonprofit boards, do some public speaking, some mentoring with some of our younger folks, and was running a men's group for a while. And so do a lot of different things, but I enjoy pretty much every last thing that I do.
Yeah, right. And obviously I knew that coming in, and I love that you've been able to let us know and let our listeners know that, this is how you fill your cup. And I think that's such an important way to frame it. You talk about framing as you did in your initial response, is that came through in abundance when you provide the information on yourself. If you go to like a LinkedIn profile, whatever it is, this isn't how you stay busy. This is how you fill your cup. And it's so clear that is around your messaging in anything and everything that you do, that it doesn't sound like a chore. It doesn't sound like it's something that you're burdened by. It sounds like you said, blessed to be a blessing. Like, just talk to me a little bit about your own mindset when you think about how you're able to show up this way in the work you do.
So I always tell everyone, 10 years ago, you couldn't have told me that I'm doing some of the things that I'm doing. I spent many years in corporate America and just trying to, rise up that corporate ladder. And I was busy acquiring things and stuff. While it looked good and it felt good, it wasn't necessarily, as you say, filling my cup. I had the house, I had the cars and the vacations and threw my kids in all types of different AAU sports and things like that. But I'm in a season now in my life where it's about filling my cup. It's about serving others. I tell everyone my life is divided into two halves, the first half and the second half.
Hmm.
First half, climbing the corporate ladder and doing all that and wearing the suits and ties. In the second half of my life, I don't care about any of that. It's all about how can I serve someone else?
Hmm.
Serving someone else really creates a legacy that most people don't think about. So, Steve, if I were to serve you and did something for you that you didn't think was going to happen or blessed you in a certain way, you might say thank you. But it might be 10, 20 years down the line, you're sitting talking to your children or your grandchildren, and you say, you know what? There was a gentleman by the name of Ed Dudley, and I haven't talked to him or seen him in years, but he helped me in a certain way and did this. That's creating a legacy.
That's right.
The gentleman for me that helped me in my career early, the gentleman, an Italian, little small Italian guy in Boston named Bob Paolini. And if it wasn't for Bob Paolini, who I haven't talked to probably in 15, 17 years, I'm not sitting here today, even having this conversation with you, because he pointed me in the right direction and had faith in me. And then he actually pushed me out the nest to
Hmm.
go fly, per se. So, I'm just here to serve. And I tell everyone my job at the end of the day is to introduce people to or connect people with pros. And pros is not professionals. And pros for me, and I do a lot of talks and acronyms
Yep.
because people tend to remember acronyms. Pros stands for people, resources, and opportunities. And if I can connect somebody with one of those three things, I feel I've served them in a mighty way.
Amen to that. I mean, that's legacy is such a fat. Interestingly, we've talked about legacy a little bit in some recent episodes, and I really want to use, as someone who has brought it up as soon as you have in this discussion, I really want to maybe double click on this for a moment and just take a little bit more of a deep dive in the sense of,
Yeah,
here you are splitting your life into two halves at this point, and I'm always interested when you think, okay, you've reached this second half, and now you're making it about legacy, but is there any argument to be made that we can be thinking about legacy as early in life as we want to? Are we supposed to be?
absolutely.
Are we supposed to be pushing it off until we're in a position to be? Hey, we both have the same hairline right now, and, and all that kind of
It's
thing.
called the aerodynamic look.
That's
It's
right. That's right.
aerodynamic. That's
We're
the
moving faster. That's right. We're moving faster than everybody else. There's no doubt about that. But that's the thing for me. It's like, do we need to be in this point of, is there an age requirement to pass on a legacy? All this kind of stuff. Like, I'm always fascinated, like, from you as someone who's so caught up in the concept of legacy. When's a good time, and how's a good time to get into the idea and making it a priority in your life?
as early as possible. One of the first things I said when we were talking about growth was mindset.
Yep.
If you have the mindset to think about legacy, you can start early. Now, the problem is my parents never talked to me about legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Their parents never talked to them about legacy. We don't have these conversations with our kids and the young people in our life talking about what do you want your legacy to be? A lot of times, we talk about, what do you want to do for a career? What do you want to be? We'll push them hard in sports and academics, but we don't talk about legacy. And sometimes you think having your name on the side of a building is legacy.
Yeah.
No, that building could be torn down.
Right.
Well, if somebody uttered your name on their lips years later, like I uttered Bob Paolini, another gentleman that you've had on your show, a good friend of mine, Scott Ramey. Scott helped me immensely. Scott is an amazing public speaker, and I've watched him and I've learned from him.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott's name will ring off my lips in different conversations. So that's legacy. I spent a lot of time at an all boys and middle school here in Durham, just going to volunteer, talk with them and share with them. And I always, when they come up to me, I always say, tell me something good, because I want to hear them say something positive,
Mm-hmm.
but I also want to plant a seed in them that, you know what, no matter what you're dealing with, what you're going through, you can have something good in your life. Now I'm planting, little do they know, I'm planting legacy in them because I've heard them ask some of their friends, some of their classmates, hey, tell me something good. So that's just dripping on them. But you can start as early as you want. And I wish we would have conversations with our young people earlier in life regarding a lot of different things, legacy being one of them. Emotional intelligence is another one. I wish we taught emotional intelligence in school. I wish it was part of a curriculum.
Right.
We would have a lot better society and some amazing adults if we all learned emotional intelligence along the way as well.
Yeah, and again, I love being able to use the response that you give to the first question as this constant thing to come back to throughout the conversations, as always, because there you are talking about mindset, and such a big piece of the legacy conversation is, that example that you were giving there, like, hey, can we just talk about this in schools? Can we talk about this at an earlier age? Things that we do already is we maybe talk about the importance of a first impression, and it's like, okay, that's good, that's nice, that's a good starting point. But really, that's just an in the moment kind of thing, because what you're trying to do here is shift a mindset to saying, how can you be of such impact that you're remembered for what you do? It goes that little bit further. It challenges the person to say, I'm not just going to shake a person's hand well and look them in the eye and conduct myself accordingly. I'm actually going to see if I can be of value as well.
Be of service.
Be of service. That's right. That's right.
Be of service. We hear a lot of people talking about a servant leader. And that was a catchphrase. I'm a servant leader. I'm a servant leader. But a servant leader leads from behind.
Mm.
And a lot of people forget that I think I need to be up front. Every single day I'm looking for someone to potentially serve.
Mm.
And I don't know who that may look like. That might be just opening a door for an older individual. Or, if it's just raining and I have an umbrella and I see somebody running in the rain and they don't have one, sharing my umbrella. I think service can be anything. Now I wish we all could be like Jeff Bezos and some of these other and just give away millions.
Sure.
But we can't. But sometimes we can give something that's better than money.
Mm-hmm.
We can give what I call air, and that's advice, insights, and a recommendation. You give somebody some advice that can carry them to their next career or something in their marriage, things like that. That's great. You can give some insights as to, what? I went through a bad divorce and 10 years ago, and this is what I learned, and don't want you to go down that same path.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can give a simple recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I recommend that you pick up this book by Phil Jackson. Pick up this book because I see the book sitting on the back of your thing. Book by Phil Jackson. Pick up this book. Or you know what? There's an amazing training class that's talking about this. Mm-hmm. Those things like that, they just go such a long way.
Yeah, and another piece that another word, sorry, that you used in that opening response is how we commit to this. Like, how committed are we to this? And I want to use this now as a way to almost bridge those two halves of your life. So maybe there isn't a big story or a big moment or whatever it may be, but I would just love to learn, like, what was it that allowed you to shift and suddenly see this as a commitment that's worth making, to have the mindset you have today, to preach legacy the way you preach? What was it that maybe occurred, or how did you evolve during that period?
It was a process. There was a lot of different things going on. I went through a bad divorce that shook my foundation and shook the core of who I was. For a while, I was doing this, pointing fingers at this, and this, where there's fingers pointing back at me. A lot of times that I didn't do this, I didn't say this, I didn't show up this way. I wasn't the best husband at that time that I should have been. And it just sent me on a path. I'll never remember going to a sales meeting in St. Louis, and I'm in the midst of going through that divorce and no one knew. And I'm sitting in this room with some colleagues, about 20 colleagues or so, and I'm a mess. I'm a hot mess, and I'm doing everything I can on the inside to keep all those emotions in, because we men, we don't cry in public. Right. I went to my VP at the time, and I told him what was going on, and he says, "You know what?" And I just started to cry a little bit. He says, "Go on back to your room." And I went back to a room in a hotel, and I stayed in that room for 2 days during that whole meeting session. And I just laid in the bed depressed. Yeah. Depressed. Fast forward, I got past all that, met this amazing, amazing lady, and we just started reevaluating life as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Because prior to that divorce, like I was telling, I had a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
making a very good living, living in a very good neighborhood and all that. And just a lot of that stuff evaporated. And I was like, is this stuff really who I am?
Mm.
I like it. Don't get me wrong. We like this stuff,
Yep.
but the stuff can be gone here today, gone tomorrow. What can I do that will live on? And it got to this point where I just started helping one person. And then they came back and shared with me, what that meant to them. I'm like, oh, okay. Then helping somebody else. And that just went on and on and on. I said, you know what? Whether I ever get a thank you or whether my name is ever uttered again, I'm literally going to go down this path serving others. Like I get uncomfortable when people ask me, how can I serve you? Like, I'm like, I'm fine. I'm like, I'm good. Go serve somebody else. But I'm always asking people, yeah, how can I serve you today? What can I do for you?
Mm.
So that's the story in a nutshell,
Yeah.
where those halves
Yeah.
just started
Mm.
to go apart. Like, I am everything I am and everything I do is based on my faith. I am an unapologetic Christian, and you got the Old Testament and the New Testament, and in the middle is where God this it was silent.
Right.
God is never silent. So I was talking about it just as recorded.
Yeah.
That is where I was. I was in that silent piece, and I was just wandering around, and then I found purpose. I found calling. God started to do some things in my life. He started to have me point up a mirror at myself,
Mm-hmm.
which gets uncomfortable at times when you look at a real mirror of yourself and who you
Uh-huh.
really are. And there were certain parts of me I didn't like.
Yeah.
And I said, either I'm going to change them or I'm going to be the same person, probably end up with some of the same results that I had in the past. And I said, I refuse to do that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I appreciate all of that. Thank you for sharing. And I too am a Christian. I too have chapters in my life. I'm sure many people are listening to you explain your journey, and if they've not categorized it into halves or quarters or chapters, they're suddenly sitting there thinking, well, where did one of my chapters end, and where did one of it begin, and why, and all this kind of stuff. And I think that desire to reflect at times, just to go back and almost replay the game film of our life and say, okay, where did it change? Where did it shift? There's some powerful introspective work right there. But something I'm really hearing consistent throughout that is being able to frame your mind in a way where the who of who Ed is became the priority much further beyond the what. And then that's that what of what you were and what you did and what you had, like all that stuff suddenly became significantly less important compared to the who. And I'm there's that question that you ask, and I've already noted, like, don't ask Ed at the end when we're done recording how I can serve him. Don't ask that question. Don't fall into the trap, Steve. But why do you start there? Why do you start with serve? Because there's many ways you can ask that question, right? I can say, hey, how can I help you? Or hey, is there anything you need from me? But you seem very disciplined around this concept of serve, and I just love to sort of pick a little bit more into that and just have you maybe articulate for us what it means to you, firstly, to serve, and why it is you're so adamant about being of service, therefore, to others.
So I'll simply say Jesus came to serve.
Mm,
And if Jesus came to serve, who am I not to serve?
mm,
It's simple as that. Who am I not to serve? And like I said, service can be all different types of things. But I wake up every day and I said, Lord, give me someone or have someone cross my path that I can actually serve. In whatever capacity that is, how can I serve them? And sometimes it's just a simple hug. Sometimes it's just, wow, that looks great on you.
mm,
Like, when was the last time you've had a man compliment you on, hey, Steve, that is some nice shoes.
yeah,
Or, because a lot of times we men, we don't like to compliment each other because,
that's right.
makes feel a little uncomfortable. But I'm very quick. If I see a gentleman, he has something nice, I'm like, that looks nice on you. I actually had one gentleman, and I'll never forget it. We're in the elevator, and I'm like, oh, that cologne smells amazing. I'm like, uh, you smell amazing. And he looked at me like, I'm like, yeah, no, um, I'm not interested in you. I don't,
Right.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
But what are you wearing?
Right.
And his whole face just lit up because another man said, hey, that smells amazing
Right.
on you. And things like that. So it's all about service. As you started talking about filling my cup, that fills my cup.
Mm,
And one Bible verse that I live by is simple. Given it shall be given unto you.
mm, yeah.
So many people have served me in my life to help me get where I am and do some of the things that I've done and gone some of the places I've gone. If they didn't serve me, I'm not here.
Yeah.
I can think of a laundry list of people that served me, that, helped me along my way, not looking for anything in return, anything in return other than to see me successful.
Yeah.
So I have to serve. I get up and serve. And at the end of the day, I sit back and, get in my bed and I try not to worry about the cares of the world. Because a lot of times we get in our bed and start replaying everything. I try to sit back and like, how many people did I serve? Who did I serve?
Yeah.
Was that impactful? All right. And get ready for the next day.
Yeah.
You'll be shocked how if you live a life of servitude, truly serving, looking for nothing in return, you'll be shocked how grateful and thankful you will be in life,
Yeah.
regardless of what you have. I went to a men's group yesterday, and funny story. I go to the gentleman's house, never met him before. I go into this really nice area. Um, I will say there weren't a lot of people that look like me probably in this area. I rang his doorbell and he looked like, who the heck is this at my door?
Right.
And he's looking at me and I'm like, so he comes out and closes the door behind me. He's like, yes. And I'm like, Bill sent me here. He said, okay. Had his face not been so concerned, I was going to really mess with him and say, are you prepared for Jehovah's return?
Right.
And just go down that line and really mess him up. But we get inside, and he starts sharing with me that he was a heavy drinker and alcoholic until June of this year.
Mm,
And he started sharing that he was hopeless and all that because I'm asking questions and things like that. And he started talking about how his house probably half a million to $700,000 house, nice house. But he said I was going to work at homes at $1 million and $2 million. I'm sitting here like, and I come back to this, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, do you know how many people would die for this?
mm-hmm.
Like die for this? And I simply said to him, as he's sharing, I says, that's one of the things that we get caught up and it really hurts us. Comparison kills.
Mm-hmm.
Be grateful and thankful for what you have because there are so many people that would change positions with you in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have everything that you want, but a lot of times you have everything that you need. And there's a lot of people out there that don't have everything that they even need.
Yep. Yep. And now you're speaking from my playbook. So much of the work that I'm doing with leaders and high performers is helping them see sometimes that they're looking through a lens of want as opposed to need, and it's
Uh-huh.
just it's such an easy trap to fall into because
Oh, absolutely.
of the world we live in, right?
That's
Literally
what
everything
society
is set
tells
up,
us.
right? Everything's
That's
set
what
up to
society
compete,
tells us. It's
right?
you're successful if you have 10,000 square foot house. You're successful if you drive, big giant car and you have 5 cars and have expensive wife. You're successful. Are you really?
Mm-hmm.
You just have wealth from a monetary standpoint,
Right,
but you have wealth of self.
right,
I always use the gentleman that played Superman. So I'm gonna date myself a little bit.
yeah,
Christopher Reeves.
yeah, yeah.
He played Superman. Superman was invincible. Christopher Reeves was paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
He had money. Do you think he would have given up all the money that he had and everything to be able to walk again?
No doubt.
Money could purchase things,
Yeah,
but it can't purchase happiness. It can't
right,
purchase self-worth.
right, right. And it's I really enjoy how you frame this sort of input of service with this output of gratitude. Not that we're I mean, well, I was about to say, not that we're serving in order to be grateful, but what's wrong in that? I guess, like, as I'm saying it, I'm just like,
There's
what
nothing
if you
wrong
could,
with that.
right? Like, I
There's
literally, I'm
nothing
like
wrong.
reframing myself as I'm asking the question. I'm like, what's wrong in aspiring to have gratitude in our life? If it means serving in order to be grateful, what's that's a pretty healthy equation to wrap our heads around,
That's
I
a
think.
very healthy equation.
Yeah.
I used to challenge people that I met, and we were talking. This like set a goal. How many people you want to serve this year? I had set ambitious goals. I said I want to serve 1,000 people in a year. What does that look like? And I was doing good, keeping track. I didn't hit 1,000 that year, but I hit about 400 and something like that. And I was like, okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
And it was all different types of ways.
Yeah.
So now, beginning of the year, people make New Year's resolutions and do all these types of things. I look at it as like, how many people am I going to serve this year? What is my impact in the lives of others going to be this
Mm.
year? And I got some interesting things that I'm gonna be working on to make a more impact
Yeah.
on some individuals' lives
Yeah.
for next year. It's gonna be a little bit different than some of the things I've done in the past, um, but I'm looking forward to a new challenge.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that from the sidelines. If you make it public knowledge,
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch from the
Oh,
sidelines.
I
But
will, I will, I will make it very public
good,
when
good stuff.
if it's meant to be, I will make it very public.
There you go. There you go. Well, something I really want to acknowledge here too, as you speak to this idea of service, is we bring it back into what we're about on this show. This concept of growth, this concept of being ready for growth, and typically there's a crossroad at some point with these two things, and the thing that can sometimes get in the way of us feeling ready is that we're putting too much on growth. We're making growth something that bigger than it needs to be. And you've articulated that so nicely with service. It's like, man, I don't have 5 hours a week to give to this, to give to this, to give to this. It's like, did anybody ask you to give 5 hours? Like, are you basing that compared on this friend of yours that is doing that? Is that the reason why you're doing nothing? Because if it is, there's a huge gap between 0 and 5 hours a week. And as you said, what does it mean to show up and start telling people how good they look, or giving someone a hug that looks like they need a hug? Like, we're serving in that capacity. And I'm just curious, even from your experience as someone who's been doing this now for some time, as these non-for-profits that you're a part of in these leadership positions have grown and you've seen them grow, like, what is it that gets in people's way when you think about it, of being able to prioritize so much of what you're speaking to here? What keeps us from prioritizing service?
Overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
We overthink so much stuff. You started talking about growth. Talking about I can't give 5 hours because XYZ, he's getting 5 hours. So if I can't give 5 hours, I'm not going to give anything.
Mm.
Stop it.
Yeah.
I measure growth in inches. Stop trying to measure growth in yards. Measure it in inches. If you move 1 inch, you've grown. If you can say, you know what, I can't give you 5 hours, but I'm skilled in XYZ and I can give you an hour a week. That's an hour that the organization or the individual didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have it. Now imagine if you got 10 people that can say, you know what, I can just give an hour. That's 10 hours.
Yeah.
So, we stop overthinking stuff. A lot of times, we get in our way.
Oh yeah.
We get in our own ways. And I'm speaking, I'm a living example that I got in my way all the time. Like prior to 8 years ago, I wasn't serving on any time, doing anything with nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
I felt I didn't have the time. I'm like, if I can't give XYZ, not going to do it. And then I went to go visit one nonprofit here in Durham called SwingPals. It's a youth organization that helps underserved youth
Mm-hmm.
learn leadership, thoughtfulness, mindfulness skills through the game of golf. And I sat there and I watched this and I'm like, oh, I'm like, this is good. And I looked at a bunch of little boys and I'm like, whoa, that could have been me. That could have been my sons, could have been my grandsons. Like, And I started serving on the board.
Mm.
Started serving. It was just a couple hours a month. Then I went from that to I went to the vice president of the board. Now it's 4 or 5 hours a month. Then I went to the president of the board and I was serving more. But it's all incremental. Start growing and serving in inches.
Yeah.
Because those inches that you grow in, that you serve in, will eventually be half a foot, a yard. You know, football. I use football. I love football. I'm a Patriots fan. We are garbage right now. It's okay. We ran it for 20 years. We'll be back. But if you think about, they're always looking for that inch to get a first down. What's your first down?
Mm.
What's your first down? What does your first down look like? Sometimes you just need to make that inch and you got that first down. All right, now you got that first down. All right, I gotta go and get another first down. But I need just a couple inches to get to that first down.
Yeah.
If we stop overthinking some things, we could do some amazing things as individuals.
Yep. Yep. Timestamp it, people. 30-minute mark. What's your first down? What's your first down? Again, we are living in a world right now that is encouraging success can only be qualified through touchdowns, right?
Mhm.
Like and this is, you've now patched it over to a British guy to talk about American football. So, a little bit of dangerous territory here, but just saying like that's the issue, right? That's where we get in our own way. Like, how do I make this a touchdown? Forget the touchdown. Keep the play alive, keep the possession alive. Like, just move the ball in those inches, like you said, because again, one way I even introduce what I do to people today, when I try to spend a minute explaining what an executive coach does, I just stop and I go, you know what? I help people get out of their own way. And they go, oh man, I could do some help with that. And it's just like that is our thing, right? We want to create this narrative and these stories. And it's almost like, well, now that I've got the story, I've got the out, I've got the excuse, I've got the avoidance tactic for why I can't give this time to this board. I can't give this time to this. And it's like, okay, but to your point, Ed, like, how do we bring this from a game of touchdowns to a game of first down to a game, therefore, of inches?
Slow down.
Mm.
Slow down. We live in, I call it the microwave society.
Mm-hmm.
We want everything that we want, and we want it now. It's like that J.G. Wentworth commercial that we all know. It's my money and I want it now.
Right.
I hope that you need to pay me for that, J. W. Wentworth. I just gave you a shout
That's
out
right.
on.
I'll tag them. I'll tag them in the
I
episode.
want to make sure that I get paid,
That's right.
but slow down. We live in a society, we're constantly, especially here in America,
Mm-hmm.
it's fast moving. We're constantly moving. We're constantly doing it. We're constantly doing this. Rarely do we actually slow down. Do
Mm-hmm.
we slow down? Is what are we really doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are we really trying to accomplish? What legacy are we really leaving? What kind of impact are we making on the lives, not just those in our immediate family, but those around us as well? We're all in this together. I don't care you're black, white, you're rich, you're poor. I don't care you're from the north, you're from over the pond, as they like to say. I don't care. We're all in this together. One of the beautiful things that COVID, because we live in that pre-COVID, that post-COVID world. But one of the beautiful things, in spite of all the tragedy that we saw, is we saw that when we slowed down, our planet could heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
We sat back and we watched the oceans clear up. We watched animals that weren't coming around come around. I love the picture that I saw over in Venice where the waters were clear. It's because our whole society slowed down. Now, in my mind, that I know it would never happen, I wanted to see an anniversary globally in honor of the lives that are lost and how our country healed for COVID, where we all just slowed down for a week.
Yeah.
Now, because we live in a society that it's all about making that profit and squeezing that last little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
imagine if we all just really slow down globally.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a commitment right there. That's a New Year's resolution right there, brother. Getting a
Look,
globally slow down.
man, I wish we could globally slow down now. Now, I say that
Mm,
because I have to slow down.
that's right.
I don't always slow down because
Mm,
I had a problem saying no to
mm,
people and things that sounded great. And I was getting stretched thin because I wasn't slowing down. And I had a moment where I just, in all truthfulness, as we're sharing, I want to say in the summer, I just went through a series of things. Lost some family members. Like most married couples, my wife and I, we were having a little friction. I've been doing this. And I was at a point, because I was doing a lot of stuff, that I literally was ready to give up on everything.
Hmm.
I resigned from some nonprofit boards. I was like, I'm leaving my wife. I'm leaving North Carolina. I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm disappearing. And on a way back from the Charlotte area back to Durham, where I live, wife in our car, she's sitting over in the car and she's asleep. I'm sitting over there and in my feelings. And as I told you, I was a man of faith. And in that moment, I'm about an hour outside of reaching my destination. I started hearing audibly God speak to me and say certain things. Cast all your cares on me, for I care for you.
Hmm.
And those things, and I'm sitting in the car, I'm crying now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking over my wife and I'm like, I make sure she still sleeps. I don't want her to see me crying right now
Right.
because, I was mad at her a little early, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God. And got back home and I apologized to her for some things that I've said and I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a weight lifted off me. The next day I'm in the gym. I'm on the treadmill and I'm warming up. I'm just on the treadmill and I'm listening to my music. And all of a sudden a voice speaks to me. Share what you just went through and how you were feeling on social media. I'm like, nope, not going to do it.
Yep.
However, I pulled my phone out. I started typing a post out for LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally put that out on LinkedIn, how I was feeling, ready to give up. I'm done. I'm leaving. And I posted the scriptures that were coming to me, like cast all your cares and some of the other ones, and how I was free. And that post just, it kind of took off. People thought I was still in the midst of it, but I wasn't, because
Sure.
I'm like, I'm good. But
Yep.
I had a lot of men reach out to me. I had one individual in particular send me a message and says, Ed, as I started reading your post, I started crying more and more.
Mm.
He said, because I'm right in the middle of this.
Yep.
And I said, let's sit down. Let's go have some coffee. We sat down for coffee and I'm talking to him. And the man just talking about where he is in his marriage and how his business, on the surface, business looks great. But he said, Ed, I'm selling things that I own to pay my bills because I'm struggling. He said he even had a mentee reach out to me and said, man, you're killing it. I see what you're posting on LinkedIn and all that. Oh my God, you just keep doing it. And he said he just doesn't know that on the inside, I'm ready to give up.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so many men come to me and talk to me
Yeah.
about that post.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? And this is why I do what I do. That's why a lot of my posts sometimes are just about trying to help others,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily about business, and give some type of a message that, you know what, you can make it. If I can make it, you can make it.
Yep.
If
Yep.
I'm still here, you should be still here. If I still have purpose, you still have purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd like to believe the algorithm maybe brought me into your world through that post.
Yeah,
'Cause
it
if
was it was through that post.
yeah, if it reached that many people, and I think the something I just really want to, and again, thank you so much just for the insight, the transparency, the vulnerability. It's so necessary. It's what makes this. It's what at the heart of this podcast. It's so important because the one thing I was always passionate about with the mission of the show is that this is not about preaching to the world like, look at me now, look how I've got it figured out, all this kind of thing. I want people to hear these insights, because if there was another title that I would give this show, it would be Note to Self. It would that literally just be like,
I
hey,
like that.
this is just you and I just having a conversation. Neither of us have mastered anything that we're talking about. Not like
Absolutely not.
we're reminding in many ways ourselves, as in that note to self. Like, if I want to stay on this path, if I don't talk about it, if I don't replay some of those stories, if I don't open up, if I'm not vulnerable, if I don't put myself out there, it's going to be really hard for me to keep going on this journey and growing the way I'm aspiring to grow. I haven't grown. It's not a it's not a destination.
I haven't reached it.
It's a journey.
This is a lifelong journey. I sat in that men's group on yesterday, and I told when it got to me and we're talking, I said I'm a hot mess.
Hmm.
I said I haven't got it all figured out. And I said at one point I used to think I was hot because I had some individuals tell me that I was hot, and I like
There
that.
you go.
We
There you
like the
go.
compliments, but I'm a hot mess. I still do the wrong things. I still say the wrong things.
Mm,
I don't have it all together at times. However, I keep trying. I keep pushing.
mhm,
I keep pushing that inch. I keep moving a little forward. But I also surround myself with some amazing individuals that will not let me give up.
mhm.
They will not let me give up. When I'm tired, they will be there holding my arms up.
Yeah.
When I'm not in the room, they be praying for me. They're sending me messages and cheering me on. I tell everyone, and I used to do a ton of networking, and I used to categorize people in three different ways: A, B, and C. And my A's are my advocates. These are the people that are cheering me on even when I'm not in the room. That's a small group.
Yep.
My B's are my builders. These are individuals that we're trying to build a relationship to see where it goes. And they might go to an A and they might just stay a B. These are my largest subset of people.
Yep.
And the C stands for my consumers. These are the people that came to consume my time, my energy, and my resources. And I'm quick to cut them off because if you're trying to just take and never give, and I don't care if you don't give to me, I'm okay. But I want to see that you give to somebody.
Right.
And if you're not doing that and all you're trying to do is take, I'm going to leave you in that category and I'm going to probably drop you down to a D, which is disposal, and move you on.
We don't have enough ABCDs, man. We have everyone's ABCs to success, but I love a
Yeah.
D. I love throwing in a D. But again, I mean, between we got air, we got ABCs, we got pros, we got all the
Yeah.
acronyms, man. We're getting an inside lane to some of your probably your public speaking approach too, which I
Yeah.
appreciate. But man, this is so much good here. I have to dedicate some time though to just the growth journey that's been shining light in darkness, and hearing you speak to that as recently, we're speaking on December 20th, as recently as just 4 days ago. You've got this facility now. It allows you to double in terms of what you can do from an impact standpoint. Like,
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about just how and where it all started, and then give us a little bit of that growth journey and that growth outlook that you have moving forwards.
So I said earlier that 10 years ago, you couldn't tell me that I'm sitting here doing some of the things that I'm doing and
Mm,
working with this nonprofit and survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence. You couldn't have told me I was doing that. The reason why I do the work because it's my wife's story. So when we were dating, she shared with me what happened in a previous relationship dealing with domestic violence. And I'm like, whoa, that's not me. I don't do that. So
mhm,
we kept going along dating and everything. And then she shared with me how she dealt with a sexual assault in her early 20s. And I was like, whoa, okay. So we continued dating. And when we realized that we are going to really be together, she says, I need to share the totality of who I am so you can understand me. And she says, at 7 years old, I dealt with sexual molestation at the hands of a family member. I'm like, wow. And I remember exactly where I was when she told me that I was sitting on the edge of the bed, getting ready to take a flight somewhere. And I just sat there and I didn't even know how to respond to that other than saying, you know what? It doesn't matter what happened to you in the past. I'm here for the present and our future. So that was that. So I moved her and two little girls out of Mississippi to Atlanta. And I was like, you know what? Just being at home mom and just be comfortable. So she tried that for a couple of months and then said, this is not for me.
mhm,
She said, I can't be a soccer mom, PTA mom, and all that stuff. I want to start a business, want to build a business, successful family members that got run $1 million businesses. I want to do that.
mhm,
And so she started going down that path and said, I want to help people that have been through what I went. I'm here to support you. Just tell me what you need. I'm behind the scenes. So she went and prayed about it. She got the name Shining Light in Darkness, and it's based on John 5:1, where light is, darkness cannot be. So that's where the name Shining Light in Darkness came from. But she wrestled with God, whether it was going to be a profit or not profit business. And as someone of faith, you know what happens when you wrestle with God. You're going to end up getting pinned to the mat and you're going to lose every single time. So it's a nonprofit. Now, when she came back to me and talked to me that it was going to be a nonprofit, I looked at her like she was crazy. I'm like, why do you want to do a nonprofit? That is an actual moronic word to me.
Mm.
Non-profit just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
But we started doing the work, and when we lived in Georgia, 2015, we drive from Georgia to North Carolina, just me and her. And on the way back, we're in the car, we're laughing, joking like we normally do. Um, it's pouring raining. We get sideswiped in the rain by a yellow Mercedes compressor. I'll never forget it. And we get taken out down the hill. We both had a blackout somewhere. So she ended up getting lacerated liver, paralysis on one side, and crazy neck injections. And I tell everyone that wasn't the worst part. The worst part is on that all that unresolved trauma that she never really dealt with sprang out in some of the most unhealthy ways.
Mm, gosh.
So we eventually got her healthy. We ended up moving here to be closer to my parents, and we started doing the work.
Mm,
We were doing the work behind the scenes. No grant money, no real funders. It was just out of our pockets, housing people, feeding people, and just doing the work. Our local police department finds us on a case for some reason some of the larger organizations could not handle, but we took care of it. And they're like, "Whoa, can we send you some more cases?" We're like, "Yes, but only a few because it's just her and I,
yeah.
and we have some board members, but it's her and I doing the day-to-day work." Fast forward, so our local social service department finds us, and next thing you know, we're doing work with them. This year is our transformation year. So 2014, when we put everything together, 2019 turned it into an official nonprofit, and then 2024, the transformation year.
Mm,
We get connected with the North Carolina Women's Council, which is the funding agency to open the gateway for state funding. They're like, "We love everything that we're hearing about you. We love the work that you're doing. But we need you to do two things if you want to get any of our money. We want you to get a physical office because we were working from home and remote." And I'm like, I don't want a physical office. I'm like, I don't have to pay rent and all this other stuff that I can use to serve people.
mm-hmm.
They're like, "Oh, yeah, that's okay. You need to have a physical office. So if somebody walks and needs to find you, needs to walk and need to be there." I'm like, all right, great. We'll do that. Okay. No guarantee to funding, but we'll do it. "Oh, yeah. And we want you to have a 24-hour crisis line." Steve, when they said that, I'm like, I'm scratching my head. I joke with everybody, said, when she told me that, I pulled my hair out. Um,
You went that. You went
because I'm
that
like,
deep. You went that
yeah, I'm
deep.
like, and I'm like, how are we going to have a 24-hour crisis line? It's just her and I. So we worked through it. We built the 24-hour crisis line that we launched in like September. In October, their funding came through. Then someone that just found us on the website, they gave us like $20,000. Someone out of Chicago sent $10,000. And we just started doing the work and increasing impact. It's still not the funding for us to bring the staff that we need right now,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still enough for us to increase our impact by fivefold.
Yeah.
Um, so I meet somebody I met probably about 4 years ago, reconnect with her to be a speaker at the school I told you about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And she works in housing. Shout out to Durham Community Land Trustees, an amazing work they're doing for housing. But I told him, I said, if you ever have a space that we can take a survivor and hide them for a little while, let us know. She said, all right, let you know. She called me back a few days later. It's like, we need to talk. Brings me on the line with one of her teammates. It's like, what do you need? So I lay out our needs. They're like, okay, we can do that. So we literally have, in literally 2 weeks, we went from not having a space to having a space to getting the keys to open the doors. And then I love my community around here. And I love some of the other organizations because when I put out a rallying call that we need help to put furniture and all the other things in this place,
Yep.
people came out of the woodwork. We've gotten games. We got the sheets, another nonprofit called Green Chair. Shout out to the Green Chair Project. They help provide furniture for us. Raleigh's Realtor Giving Network. They paid for the furniture and came and cleaned the units and staged the units for us. Shout out to WellCare who gave us a bunch of stuff for it as well. Reached out to the food bank. The food bank was like, amazing. That's great. We're going to send you gift cards. Come get these gift cards so you can have food. Oh, by the way, we're going to give you $10,000 to make sure there's food
Mm.
in our units. So this year it's moved so fast, but it's been a year of transformation, a year of blessing, and I'm looking forward to 2025 for the impact that we can have on those that a lot of times we don't talk about. Because it's easy to talk about putting clothes on kids' back. It's easy to talk about hunger. It's easy to talk about cancer, but when you start talking about domestic violence and sexual assault, a lot of times people get a little tight
Mhm.
and it's like, I don't know if I want to talk about that, but I guarantee if you ask around, someone
Yep.
that's either dealt with one or the other. And I always ask men, go back to all the women in your life that you love and ask them what's their experience with domestic violence or sexual assault and just listen. They may not personally have a story, but they know someone that story that they'll share with you.
Yeah.
So that's where we are with Shine a Light in Darkness. I'm excited for the future for it and the work that we're doing. Um, that housing that we just got, that's phase one.
Hmm.
Phase two is to double that, and then beyond that, build a big giant transitional housing where we can keep them 3 to 6 months while they start getting back on track.
Mm. Man, I am so glad I asked that question. I got to tell you, I am so glad I gave you some space here to give us that story
Yeah,
because talk about a way to capture everything you said prior to the last 6 or 7 minutes. I mean, it's just all come so beautifully to fruition through the way in which this project and this nonprofit has evolved for you over the past 10 years. I mean, you talk about just that framing to begin with. You even said it, right? Nonprofit. Like, what are you talking about? I can't do nonprofit. Those two words don't go together. That makes no sense. So all of us, that was your immediate need for a reframe right there. And then to
Mhm.
suddenly, be bought into something like this with someone as important to you as your wife, and to create that commitment, and then suddenly over time, we're, we're truly practicing each step of the way what it means to now reframe what comes with the next step. Like, what are we now taking on? What is now required? And what are we now going to become responsible for by taking this on and making this decision? I mean, it's just a playbook in terms of everything that
Absolutely.
you spoke to through for the entirety of the episode up to this point. And firstly, just amazing congratulations, because it's all
Thank you.
clearly so well deserved and so necessary. And I think it almost is I can't help as the coach in me, I almost just want to encourage this work even further, in the sense of so many of those examples what you gave of how we have found comfort in discussing some of those other things, and yet this remains something that is uncomfortable for us to discuss. There was a time where those things were uncomfortable too, and if we keep having the conversation, we will
You
find
have to.
comfort with it, right? We will find. And
Have
I
to.
love that. Even love that rallying cry that you've given us here, man. Like, men, go ask women in your life, those that matter most to you. Again, it may not have happened to them, but to your point, there's no way they've not been at that random social event at some point, and some woman's finally decided to let go of whatever it
Share.
is she's been holding on to and share. To your point, man. I mean,
And I also tell everyone, it's not just women because it
right?
happens to men.
Sure.
And while the numbers are not as big,
Hmm.
um, it happens to men. And this is not just a issue in the United States. It's not an issue just over in England or Canada. This is a global issue
Hmm.
that affects everyone, regardless of their social, economical background, race, or ethnicity. Everyone is dealing with it in their population at one point or another. And our goal is we would love to see an end to all of it. We realize that in our lifetime it's not going to happen.
Hmm.
But if we can put a dent in it, we're going to try real hard. And personally, I have two objectives. Two objectives is one is I want to get in front of many men and young men to talk about it.
Right.
And the other one is I want to get in many faith-based institutions to talk about it,
Mm,
because we don't talk about it in faith-based institutions nearly enough.
mm,
And we have individuals that are being abused, and we have individuals that are abusers in there.
mhm,
And as a faith leader, what do you do when someone reveals to you that they've done with this? Now, I always say, once you give them your sacred text, whatever that might be, whether it's the Quran or whether that's the Bible, what's next? What do you do next?
mm,
Because I don't care if you're trained through seminary, Bible college, or whatever you go through. They don't really teach that there. So what are you going to do now?
mhm.
Reach out to some of your local agencies and have them in your congregation and there resources there that they can go and say, I'm gonna send you over to a place like Shining Light, or I'm gonna send you to a place over here. I'm gonna send you here. We trust them and we know they're gonna take care of you from that.
Yeah. Well, man, I just allowing you the space to share this. I pray that there's going to be someone listening to this that sees himself as, firstly, as someone who can be a facilitator, an advocate, a supporter of this
Yes.
work, and somehow connect yet another dot in this ever ongoing network of people that we know and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, something that you said here that right there at the end, sorry, that allows us to bring full circle what we've been speaking about. You're trying to make a dent. Let's go back to that insight you provided earlier, getting to that first down, starting with those inches. I mean, your approach to how you've gotten personally to where you are today has come from a game of inches, and here you are with this work with shining light in darkness. All you're trying to do is consistently move that ball an inch and see if over time you can maybe score some sort of a touchdown, man. I love it. I'm so
More of
appreciative.
our Patriots jersey for this episode.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You needed to bring it on, right? I mean, they could do with some of this kind of spirit right now, I think.
Yeah,
But
they do. That's a whole nother conversation.
a whole nother conversation for a whole nother podcast. But Ed, listen, brother, I knew it was going to be great connecting with you, and it's gone absolutely above and beyond the experience I could have anticipated. I appreciate all the insight, the generosity
Thank
of
you.
insight more than anything. Before I let you go, tell people where we can go to learn more about anything and everything that you've obviously shared with us here today.
Yeah, so the first thing, you can follow me on LinkedIn. It's Ed Dudley. That amazing, hot-looking bald guy sitting there. The beard's a little stronger in the picture. I'm trying to get it back. But you follow me on LinkedIn, or you can follow Shining Light in Darkness. Shining Light in Darkness we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, and we're on Instagram. But I'll also say, Steve, thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for
Appreciate
the
that.
voices that you're amplifying, because there's some individuals that are going to get on your podcast where their voices are not getting amplified anywhere else.
Mhm.
So you're doing something absolutely amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. Love the work that you're doing there, and any way that I can support you, please don't hesitate to let me know.
I appreciate that. Thanks, man. Thank you for the time. And I know our listeners would have appreciated the experience too. So best of luck
Yeah.
with everything heading into the new year, my friend.
Same to you, sir. Appreciate you. Thank you.
And my thanks again to Ed for joining us on the episode today. There was so much we covered in that episode. And I think something that is really important just to emphasize here is here's a guy that has been in financial planning for better part of 2 decades, as he mentioned right there at the outset. And he referenced that at the beginning. We never heard or discussed anything about that from that moment on. Everything else was about the individual that he is and has become and has, developed over the years. We talked so much about mindset. We talked so much about the importance of reframing. We found a way to frame certain words that he obviously sees as a foundational pillar in how he shows up each and every day. My point being, folks, a big takeaway from that was when Ed was able to shift from the what to the who. And the what is the title, the what is the career, the what is the responsibilities that we have under this professional umbrella that allows us to make the money we make and have the title we have and see the promotions we see and watch the revenue grow the way it does. And that's all important stuff, and it's results that we need to be focused on in order to see a return for the work that we're doing. But it starts with the who. It starts with focusing in on who you are and the work that you're willing to do around that. Because we spent about 48 minutes talking about the who and the how in which we can become that said who that we are capable of becoming. If you're listening to this and you're like, that sounds like a lot of work, well, you're right in that assumption. It is a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. And as you heard there over the course of Ed's journey, it has, and it continues to take a lot of time. This is not something that he has solved or that he has arrived at. It is something that is in process, that is continually and consistently growing. And that is my really just rallying cry to you today is, what would it look like as we set out on this 2025? We look at the year ahead and we just say, how can I improve as a who? How can I shift in terms of who I am today to who I could be at the end of this year? And you may look in the mirror right now and be really happy and in many ways content with who you are. But I'm going to challenge you still to look for a couple of things, a couple of areas, a couple of holes in your arsenal. You just say, okay, maybe there could be some room for development, some growth there. Maybe I could find some time in my week, in my days, to simply serve a little bit more consistently, the way in which Ed was encouraging us to do. So let's start there, and that's my main takeaway for today. Make it about the who. Let's see if we can allow the what to just take care of itself the more we invest in the who we show up as every single day. As always, I appreciate my guest, Ed, for coming on, Ed Dudley, and having this opportunity to speak with him and learn from him, and the generosity of insight. As always, my appreciation to you, the listener, for taking the time to invest in yourself by listening to this show. And in the meantime, best of luck in everything you have going on in your world. And I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.